Hey everybody, welcome. We're going to give everybody a few more seconds to roll in, depending on where you are. I know some people are finishing work or finishing dinner, and we want to make sure everybody's here to dig in. This is going to be onX Offroad 101 Master the App. If you're new to onX or you've been using it for a bit, and you just want to learn all the cool things so you can find awesome off-road trails and cool adventures, this is the place to be. So I hope you're excited. I am really excited. I love fall, and so. This is a great time of year. I'm actually planning some trips, and I hope you are too. So we'll dig into that tonight. All right. So you're here. I'm here. We're going to go ahead and get started. So welcome. I'm Adam. If you want to put where you're from in the chat, say hi. Let us know where you're joining from. It's always exciting to see where everybody is. I am near Denver, Colorado. And welcome to Master the App onX Offroad 101. I'm your host tonight, Adam Zolak. You may find me on the interwebs at Bantha Overland, and I travel around in this slightly larger, slightly smallish, depending on the situation, truck camper, often with some friends, my adventure buddy Val, and I just love being in the middle of nowhere with some good friends, new or old. So I hope you do too. It's fun to get out there together. All right. So I'm on a mission to inspire and enable more folks to get out there. That's why I'm doing this masterclass. If you want to find me on the interwebs, you can find me on YouTube, Instagram, what have you. But we're here to talk about onX, so we're going to go ahead and get into it. So the thing that brought me to onX Offroad, and the thing that I probably love the most, so I always like to highlight it, is when you open onX Offroad, it shows you 650,000 plus miles of off-road trails, places you can get off the pavement and get on the dirt in the United States and Canada and Baja. And that's like more than I could probably ever explore in a lifetime. And I think that's super exciting. And I love knowing I'm allowed to be there. And that's the number one thing I use onX Offroad for. At the same time, that's a lot of road, right? And so how do we figure out the right type of adventure for you, for me? What's too challenging, what's too easy? So hopefully we're going to dig into all that tonight and help you find a good trail. So, for those of you that love to get out there, and this looks too tame or this looks too hard, we'll go through that. And I know some of you also like camping, whether it's a campground or dispersed camping. And we're going to get into how do you find cool sites like this one, as well. So I hope that is exciting to you. All right. So three things that we're going to cover tonight: find, plan, go. In find, we're going to talk about how to figure out those places we're allowed to play, our public lands, how to find off-road trails and dispersed camping or campgrounds for those of you that are looking for that. We're going to talk about how to plan once we find a cool area and some cool trails, how do we use waypoints and routes and folders, offline maps, sharing and layers to really dial that trip in and have those options when we're out there playing. And then finally go, right? The part we love. How do you navigate? How do you drive along the trail, stay on the trail, record where you've been, and use onX when you're out there as well? And I'll show you examples from inside my truck as well. So let's go ahead and get into it and go to the app. So you might notice where this map is focused. For those of you that have said where you're joining from, I see, let's see, we got a Georgia, Tennessee. Anybody in this area, this sort of Virginia-ish area by chance? Yep. And the reason I'm showing it is because tonight I'm announcing a really exciting thing. So if I zoom in here a little bit, you're going to see it. Overland Expo East 2025 is coming up. It's one of the largest overlanding events in the United States. It's a great place to see what's new, to go to some great instructional talks, and to meet cool folks that, have useful tools and equipment like onX. And so for the first time ever, onX is going to be the official map of Overland Expo. And if we zoom in here, actually, you can do this too on your device. You can actually see the layout for the event. You'll be able to see where you are if you're going. And if you zoom into the right spot, like right here, you'll see that your friends at onX Offroad are going to be there. So we're going to put a link in chat. If you haven't heard about it and you want to learn more, there's still some tickets available. You can go for the day, you can camp, but it's just a great community gathering. I've gone to tons of these events, and it's just a great place to maybe meet your next adventure buddy. So stop by, talk, say hi to onX, and hopefully you can make it. All right. Now, couple housekeeping things for tonight. I see lots of you chatting away in chat. That's great. If you want to chat, if you want to share some stuff, share some tips, things like that, go ahead and put it in chat. We also have a Q&A section. So in the Q&A section, we have a lot of really smart onX customer success folks. And if you have a question about your account or something I'm talking about tonight, go ahead and put your question in Q&A and we'll make sure it gets answered during the session or afterwards. And also, I would encourage you to follow along. So if you have your phone or your tablet or your laptop, feel free to get that out, follow along. I might go a little fast. I just want to cover quite a few things. So this session will be recorded and it'll be on YouTube tomorrow. And so if there's anything you want to go back and revisit, great. Go on YouTube. You can watch it a couple times. You can slow it down. You can speed it up. But practice all you want and know that this will be recorded. All right. So chat for fun things, Q&A for questions, and this will be recorded in case you want to go back and check something out. So I'm going to start here in a web browser. I just like this. I have a laptop. My screen is a little bit bigger on my laptop, and I just like to have that screen real estate for my map for using onX Offroad. But I will also show you some things tonight about how this works on my iPhone, or you could use your Android phone. You can use it in CarPlay, right? You can use it in Android Auto, and I'll show some examples for that. Most of this stuff translates pretty well. Like what I show you here will work on your phone, et cetera, et cetera. So let's go ahead and dive in. So I always like to start with a map, right? Like that's what onX Offroad is really about. It's about a map. And so we're here staring at Overland Expo East. And as you zoom in, you see more information. As you zoom out, you see a little bit less. And so, if you have a trackpad like me, you can just pinch and zoom, or you can double click to zoom in, or you can use this plus or minus, right? To go in and out of the map. And if you ever just want to get back to your dot, right, you can hit this little target icon and it'll take you and show you exactly where you are in the map. That's one of the reasons we love onX. We know where we stand, we know where we drive, we know if we're allowed to be there. Okay. And so those are the basics of a map. Now, I know, at the heart of it all, right, we're all off-roaders. We're all here to find cool places we can go off-road. And so I want to show you how we can figure out where we're allowed to be on the map. And the example I always like to show, I feel like I'm always talking to people, especially at like these Overland Expo events, and someone will say like, hey, you should check out this trail, right? You should check out caretakers. And I'm like, caretakers? What the heck is that? Right? So the first way I want to show you how to find something in onX Offroad is just by search. So I'm going to type in caretakers and we're going to see if we can find it. Oh, let's see. There it is. Guided trails near Laramie, Wyoming. Is anybody near this trail? I hope I'm not giving away your trail. But I like this area. And so I'm going to select caretakers. It's going to zoom into the map. And here I am, right? This is the trail. It's selected. I can see some information about it. I can see it's 7 miles long. I can see it's over 8,000 feet at its high point. It has this technical rating of 1 out of 10. You may be saying, what the heck is that? We'll get into that. Best time, spring, summer, fall. Micah Brown submitted it. Thank you, Micah. Accessible by lots of different vehicle types. This is me in this big truck. You may be down here in a smaller vehicle. There's a description. This graded, well-maintained trail. You can read through it. And you can even come down here and check out some photos. And this is what I love, right? Like I love seeing that trail and starting to understand, hey, does that look like a cool trail, right? So I'll just flip through these photos. I see it's well graded, it's grassy, there's some open views, there's some pine trees, right? Looks like there might be somebody camped over here, right? And so I just like to go through this. Someone even took a nice picture of the map. I like to go through this and figure out, hey, what's this trail like? Somebody mentioned it to me, we were talking, right? And I can read its difficulty rating easy. I can see what that means. Graded Forest Service Road, right? So lots of information about it. And I can zoom out a little bit, right? I'm going to zoom out and see, well, where the heck is this thing and what's around it, right? And so I start to see the map. I start to see other trails nearby it, right? So all of these squiggly lines are trails, off-road trails you can drive. And that's the number one thing I love about onX, right? It says you're allowed to be here, right? If you're like, is it legal? Am I allowed to be here? onX combines road data and public land data from hundreds of sources from the U.S. Forest Service, from BLM, from the national parks, from states, from counties, and they put it all together in one single base map that we don't have to worry about that says you can be here. So all of these roads on here that we can see that like this 210 is a county road, right? This green trail is an easy off-road trail, right? And let me zoom out a little bit. This blue trail is like a moderate off-road trail. So if you're a skier or you snowboard or anything like that, similar to that, right? Green easy, blue medium, black hard, red super hard. And I'll show you some examples of all those. But if you come in here, right, unless the road is grayed out like this, right, where it's sort of a ghosty road, you're allowed to be there. And I think that's super powerful. And so that's the number one thing I always like to share with people who are just starting with onX. You have the 650,000 miles of roads you're allowed to be on, and you can get all that information about what are the photos, right? What are the descriptions? Do I want to be there? Can I be there, etc. So, as I zoom out here from caretakers, I see a couple things, right? I see some other trails around it. I also see this green block, and so it happens to say Medicine Bow National Forest. But one of the things I love to do in onX is if you're ever sure who owns a piece of, if you're unsure of who owns a piece of land, you can always just click on it, right? So if we click on this piece of land here, like let's go ahead and yep, it'll say Medicine Bow National Forest. So we know it's 55,000 acres. It's managed by the Laramie Ranger District. If we want to go to their website or give them a call, I often call rangers just to ask questions or check on conditions. We have all that information, and so another thing I love about onX is we want to know where we stand or we drive, know if we're allowed to be there, and so it's really easy to click on that land. You can click over here on this yellow. This is BLM. You could click over here, right? This is state of Wyoming, and you can figure out whose land it is because public lands are our playgrounds, right? So far, I already know there's all these cool off-road trails near this trail someone mentioned, caretakers. And if I wanted to browse them, there's a couple ways to do that, right? One is I can just come in here and I can start clicking on these trails. So I can say, I wonder what this Eagle Rock trail is about, right? I can read the description, check out the photos. Looks like a little watery spot there, right? Someone's camped there. And you can just sort of start coming through and browsing these trails on the map like this, right? Look at these photos, read this description, right? There's a portion here that's a little harder, can be deeply eroded, right? And so one of the cool things is all of these trails, these green trails, these blue trails, these black trails are called guided trails. If anyone is interested in learning more, anyone can sign up to become a trail guide. And we'll put a link here in the chat if you want to learn more about it. But trail guides basically go out there and they run trails that need that extra information, and they get free access to onX Elite. They get some cool gear and they really get to give back to the community. I'm a trail guide. It's super fun. Sometimes it motivates you to get out there and go on a trail that you wouldn't otherwise go on. So these other trails, these sort of beige trails, these are trails that aren't trail guided yet. So they're legal trails. You're allowed to go on them. They could be the coolest trail you ever went on in your life, but we don't have photos yet. We don't have a difficulty description. And so if you're ever seeing a beige trail like that, you may say, hey, I'm going to sign up to be a trail guide and go run that trail. Now, if you're also wondering, well, Adam, it's great that you're here to tell me this, but how do I find this information myself? You can look at the map legend. So I'm going to click over here on this little 3 square icon, and this is the layer selector. And so we'll go through layers here in a little bit, but up here in the upper right, there's a button called Map Legend. And if you click on that, you'll get a description of everything you see on the map. So you'll see that green is easy and blue is moderate and black is difficult. You'll see that those beige brown trails are difficulty unknown. And you'll even see stuff like this. Like you see how this trail here is a straight sort of line, like the edges are solid and over here it's dashed. Well, this solid line is a full width road. This dash line is a high clearance road, right? So these dash lines are probably going to require a high clearance vehicle, maybe not for the entire road, but for a portion of it. And so you can come down here and check out the entire legend, the colors for who owns the land, and all sorts of good stuff. So if you ever are unsure, you can click on the map like I showed you, but you can also check out the legend and sort of see what you're seeing, right? So another way is to browse, right? Just click on those trails, see what's around. Another option I like to use to discover cool off-road trails is just click Discover. So over here on the left, if you click Discover, wherever this map is centered, right? And you see I moved it. So it'll say, hey, do you want to research since you moved the map? It'll show me the trails based on how far they are away from me. So if I just want to see, hey, what are all the trails that are near me? I can come into Discover. And then as I hover over these, you'll see on the map, like watch this line right here, right? See how it turns orange around it? So I get to see where these trails are on the map. And I get the picture, I get the difficulty, so I can say, oh, look, Blair Wallace Road has some like aspens. That might be cool in the fall, right? So it's another cool way to discover trails. And then the last way I want to show you, actually, because something that can happen, like I said in the beginning, you start to zoom out and it's just, there starts to be a lot of trails, right? So many trails that you're like, well, which trail? So if you come up to here where it says activity dirt and these little sliders, this lets you configure what is shown on the map. These are filters. So you can come in here and you can say, hey, I'm a full width kind of vehicle. And you'll notice when I do this, see how things show up and disappear on the map? I'm a full width vehicle. I'm a high clearance vehicle. I can do high clearance trails and I can choose my difficulty level. So for me, in my big truck camper, in my 11,000 pound truck camper, I'm often an easy kind of person and sometimes a moderate kind of person. I am not really a difficult or an extreme kind of person. Maybe if I had a short wheelbase vehicle, but that's okay, right? There's still most of the trails are good for me. And I also like those beige trails, those not rated trails that, someone needs to go out and run. So I often will turn this on, but you turn on the filters you want, and then you can come in here and sort of just focus on the trails you care about. Now let's for a second just imagine that I was looking for just difficult and extreme trails, right? So I can come in here and start searching. And, for any of us that know anything about Moab, right, there's a lot of black and there's a few red trails out here, right? And so there's some out here in Colorado as well. And so you can find whatever your form of adventure is. For some of us, it's just getting out there, right? And not going crazy. And for some of us, if it's too easy, it's not going to be fun. So you can find whatever type of adventure you're looking for using those filters. Okay, so lots of different ways to find trails. I'm going to go back here to Pole Mountain, zoom in here again. So we're still sort of in finds, right? Like I showed you lots of ways to find trails. And I generally will do that and say, okay, like those trails look cool. What am I looking to do? But I want to show you some other things I do to figure out, well, is this area cool? Do I want to be there? Is it fun? Does it have the stuff I like? And so right now we are on the Topo map, right? It's showing the topographic features. And as I zoom in here a little bit more, you'll start to see some of those in more detail. So you can see this area in Pole Mountain. It has some drainages, some rivers, looks like even some maybe beaver ponds. It has some springs, it has some small lakes, right? And it has some rock features, right? So as I zoom in here, you'll start to see these topo lines that signal elevation change. I like this, right? Like when I go on an overlanding trip, I'm looking for some interesting scenery, as I know many of you are. And so I'll often look at this to say, is this the area I want to be in? Is this the area I want to find? And as you zoom in, you'll also see points of interest, right? So if we come in here, we'll see that not only is there an off-road trail, there's some trailheads, right? For hiking trails, Turtle Rock Loop, Devil's Playground. Devil's Playground is always a good bet. Right? There's a picnic area. There's even an organized campground if we want to come in here and stay in a campground and not disperse camp. And so as you zoom in, you'll just find what there is, right? Topographically, points of interest and stuff like that. So I'm starting to really like this area. It looks interesting. It has the right off-road trails for me. It has those green and the blues. It has some trails I could explore, right, that are unguided. And it just has some cool looking topography. Now, at this point, I'm actually normally have the satellite layer on. I just wanted to show you this topo layer, but I often switch to satellite at this point. So if we come into layers, again, this little square stack on the right, and open this up, you can select satellite, right? And I love this because it really starts to let me see what the heck is going on, right? So I'll come in here and I'll see there is a huge rock formation, right? I can see the drainages and the lakes and stuff like that. And it starts to look like a cool area. And then the thing I just love, right? This like 2D button right here. I'm gonna tap it and it's gonna switch into 3D, right? And then like look at that, right? Like it's so cool looking. And I'm gonna hold down the control key on my keyboard. And this is super easy on your phone. So I'm gonna show it to you on your phone in a second. But if you hold down your control key and then you just rotate your mouse to your trackpad, I mean, you can get like, oh, you can get like right in there, right? Like you can like, what's up here? What are these rocks like? What's this picnic area like, right? And one of the things I actually love to do with this, and you can see my map got all turned around. So I'm gonna see how north is now pointing down to the left. I'm gonna click north, get my north back up because I got a little turned around there. I'm just gonna zoom into this Voodoo Road and I'm like going to drive the road. And this is often what I do to see if, this is the area I want to be in, right? And so I'll just sort of drive along this road and see what there is to see. And I see there's a vehicle parked here, right? It looks like there's a little impacted area here and here. And so these are dispersed campsites, and we'll get into dispersed camping in a minute, but this is another great way to just, find those dispersed campsites where someone's been there before. And so that's a place we could go and see if it's free, see if there's 52 cows standing in it, or if there's another camper in it. But hopefully, right, it's free. And then we can also do things like say, hey, what's my view going to be? Right? Like that's okay. Like I'd take that view, right? And so I just love using the satellite and using the 3D mode. Now, again, if you ever get all turned around, you can always put north back up. You can always click 3D to go back to 2D. And then you're just looking straight down. And if your map's still too busy, right, you can always just go back to topo mode. So a couple tips there. There's also a hybrid mode, which keeps those topo lines if you're really trying to figure out elevation, or you can just have satellite to have like the sort of focused view there. All right. So at this point, I want to show you some of these things on my iPhone. And then, like I said, I actually think some of these things sometimes are even a little bit easier on my phone. And so I want to show you how that works. And if you have Android, it works very similarly. So I'm here in onX Offroad on my iPhone. I'm here at Pole Mountain. So similar things, if you want to zoom in or zoom out, you can just pinch and zoom, which I find to be super nice and super easy. Another trick though is if you just take one finger and you double tap, you can zoom in like that. And if you take two fingers and just tap once, you can zoom out. So this is why I just love the phone or the tablet, right? It's just super easy, right? So you can come in and do that. And then if you want to change your layers, same icon, right? You can come in here, turn on satellite, and then same button, 2D, right? We'll zoom in. And then you can just see I'm just rotating, sort of like a clock. You can just rotate. And you can also tilt. So if I wanted to come in and check out that picnic area, similar to how I did on my laptop there, I could just sort of turn it like this, pinch and zoom. And I mean, look at that. It's so cool. Like you're just in there, right? Like you can get such a good sense of what's going on. And very similarly, like if you wanted to drive this Voodoo road on your phone, right? We could zoom in, we could turn it a little bit, we could tilt it a little bit, zoom in a little bit more, and then we can just drive the road, right? Woo, it's like a little video game. Right? But it's really cool. And then at any point you can look around and sort of see, hey, what's the scenery, right? What am I going to see? Oh, like there's a really cool view of Turtle Rock in the mountains and stuff like that. So some things I think are even better just because you can use your fingers, and I love using my fingers. So check that out on mobile. Okay, so that's generally what I do to sort of find a cool off-road trail, a cool area I want to explore. We're going to get into making a plan. Like once you pick that area and you're like, hey, I want to go there. How do we actually sort of make a plan and remember that plan and have that with us when we go out in the field so we don't get lost? Because sometimes you think it's so easy looking at the map, but then you get out there and it's like, whoa, like where am I? I want to show you how I use onX in my vehicle, and that's a little hard to do in a webinar, so I actually record it a little video showing how I have it set up in my truck, how I use my phone, how I use CarPlay, and I hope that gives you a sense of how you can do your setup. It's not the perfect setup, but how you might want to set up onX in your vehicle as well. When I'm using onX Offroad in my vehicle, I like to have my phone up, and I like to have it up on CarPlay or Android Auto if you use Android. I use my phone for a general overview, so you can see I can zoom out very wide here and get a general sense of where I am and different points of interest that I might be trying to navigate to. And then I use the head unit here to navigate more specifically and close up. So if I'm looking for a turnoff, a trail, a dispersed campsite, something like that. And something else I like to do is have the satellite with topo map up. So in your base maps, there's the hybrid, and this basically is your satellite with topo. And now you can see it's displayed here on my head unit. Now what I like about this is I can see what's around me. I can see there's trees here, there's a hill here, I can see the contour lines, and I can actually see there's a pull-off up here. So if I was looking for a place to stop or turn around, or maybe check out a dispersed campsite, it can be super helpful to find interesting things that might not be super visible from the road. So you can see here as we drive by that this is indeed a little pull-off, and in a pinch you could use it as a dispersed campsite or something like that. So it can be a super helpful way to just get a sense of what's around you, because sometimes you're just in the trees or you're next to rocks and it can be hard to see what's going on. One other tip, you might want to orient your map in different ways. So right now it's oriented in my direction of travel. If I tap this icon again, I'll get top down. If I tap it once more, I'm going to get north up. And so you can cycle through those three views. So I'm going to show you how this sort of works. So I'm going to drive here, and as I go around this curve, you'll see the map rotates around the direction in which I'm traveling. If I tap it again and get that top-down view, it's going to do a similar thing. It's going to be my direction of travel, but it's going to just be sort of straight down like that. And then I can also tap this if I want to zoom in and zoom out a little bit, see a little bit more terrain. And then I can also tap it once more and get that north up, and tap it once more and get that perspective. And I like this one. This is the one I use the most. It's sort of like a tilt, so I can sort of see the geometry of the terrain a little bit better. I can see if it's going up or down or what's around me. I can see what's ahead a little bit, but the map is always oriented so that I get a preview of what I'm about to see in the next mile of road or so. All right, so hopefully that gives you a little bit of sense of how you can set up in your vehicle. Everybody's vehicle is a little bit different. I have lots of friends that use tablets. I see in the chat that some of you were recommending some tablets and things like that. It can be super helpful to have a little bit more screen real estate. So there was a good comment also in the chat from Brandon that, about trail difficulty and how things can change over time and things like that. So I want to focus on that a little bit as we get into sort of making our plan. Where we're saying, hey, maybe we're going to try that specific trail, right? Maybe we're going to try this specific trail. So let's go here back to caretakers, this trail we started on. So a couple things you can do, right? You can look at the technical rating and the difficulty description, right? But you can also hit this question mark, right? And you'll actually get the official rubric that trail guides use to grade these roads when they go out, right? So you can see here what a 1 is, what a 3 is, etc. So if you're getting into a 3, it doesn't mean it has everything here, but it has the potential for loose rocks or sandy washes. It has potential water crossings less than a foot deep. It has potential mud holes or trails obstacles up to a foot, right? Could have some ledges, etc. So go through here. This is a good way to start. Over time, you'll sort of figure out like, hey, I do up to 3 or 4 or 5 or 6, right? Or I only do 9, right? But onX Offroad was really built for real off-road and every trail. And so as you get into 9s and 10s, it's crazy, right? Like you're probably pulling your vehicle up something with a winch, right? It can be very technical. You might need a very purpose-built rig, and so check that out. Another way to figure out, the difficulty aside from just reading the description and the photos and stuff is trail reports. So trail reports are super cool. Anybody can add a trail report to a trail. I encourage you to. You can see I added one here back in July, but folks will come in here and say, did they run the trail? Was it open? What were the conditions, right? There was some washboarding, some people, right? It looked like here there was a gate, right? So we may know, hey, this trail is gated part of the year. And so you can go back through here and, this trail had lots of users that were nice enough to go ahead and put trail reports on. Same thing down here. If you come down to this blue, right, and you're wondering, oh, like, why is it a little bit harder? You can go through the photos, you can read the difficulty rating, or you can go through the trail reports, right? But one of the nice things is sometimes folks will even add photos, right? And you can see, looks like someone ran it in a stock Toyota, right? So you can say, hey, I have that vehicle. I can probably make it. But conditions change, right? If there's a huge rain or a huge snowstorm and it's muddy or wet, there's water where there isn't normally water, it can change a little bit, right? A difficulty 2 can go to a difficulty 3 or 4, etc., depending on how conditions change over the time. So that's why I love the trail reports. And I say read the trail reports and also add trail reports to help and be part of that community. Okay, so some other things as I'm starting to think, okay, I'm going here, right? I'm planning. I want to be here. One thing that I haven't shown you yet is actually recent imagery. And so this is the time of year where we're getting into, it's going to start snowing soon, at least where I live. And so recent imagery is a cool feature that lets you see what more recent conditions have looked like. So if you come over here to the layers again, and you come to recent imagery and turn it on, you'll see we get satellite imagery. It's a little bit fuzzier, right? But we get this date picker, right? So this imagery has been taken within the last 2 weeks. So if I come in here right now, I can see there probably isn't any snow on the ground. But let's say I was curious, like when did snow start last year, right? Every year is a little bit different. I'm going to go back to 2004, similar time frame, right? And I'm just going to sort of use this arrow to page forward through the imagery. So I'm going to go forward, forward, right? So somewhere around mid-November, snow started to come into this area, right? It left a little bit, and then it really came back in January. And so I like using recent imagery because it can help you see things like when did snow start, when did it melt. You can even use it to see sort of, when did an area turn a little bit yellow or a little bit red for fall foliage coverage. So it can be a cool feature to check out. So I often check out recent imagery. And then turn it off when I'm done because the regular satellite imagery is a little bit crisper. Okay, so let's say I was going through here, and I started to find some trails I wanted to check out, right? I have caretakers. This Twin Mountain Trail looks pretty cool. So I often use waypoints to mark trails that I want to remember. And so over here on the right, you have all these tools you can use to mark up the map, to draw on it, to add waypoints, to make routes, things like that. So I'm going to select this add waypoint option here. Just going to click it once. I'm going to get this black pin. And so I'll often just put this at the beginning of a trail. And I'll just say caretakers 4x4. And there's lots of icons you can choose from. You can go through them all. You can search for them. I'm gonna use the 4x4 icon here. And I'm going to make it pink or purple. And I have this little color scheme I use. You don't have to use it, but I'd suggest coming up with your own. It helps keep your map organized. I use pink for anything I haven't done and I want to do. I use teal for anything I've done. So once I do something, I switch it to teal. And I use yellow, which you'll see in a second, for anything related to camping. And it just lets me quickly scan the map to figure out, what I want to focus on. What is that thing? Is that a thing I want to do? Is that a thing I did? Right? Another thing you can do, which I won't show you tonight, but we have a great advanced masterclass recording on YouTube. Go back and watch the older master classes if you're interested, all about organizing stuff. And you can actually filter what's on your map by the color of it or the icon of it. So if you make everything a certain color or a certain icon, you can actually filter your map later to just say, I just want to see my dispersed campsites. I just want to see the trailheads that are pink or purple that I haven't done yet, right? Okay, so I'm going to give it the icon, I'm going to give the color, and I'm going to add a folder. So for trips, I often come in here and I make a new folder with the year, the month, and then the name of where I'm going. You don't have to do this. I find it helps to help me stay organized, and I'll show you why folders rock in a little bit. And I'm going to save that, right? So I have this Caretaker's Trailhead, and then I also had found this Twin Mountain Trailhead. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to do a similar thing, right? Trying to spell live never works out. All right. So same thing, same color, same icon added to the folder. Okay. So that's what I do for trails. I want to show you a little bit about how I approach camping. So I often like to go out on multi-day adventures, right? So let's say I were looking here and I was looking at caretakers and I found this cool Crow Springs road over here. It's dashed, so it's high clearance. Looks a little bit more exciting. Technical trail rating 3 out of 10. I see a Jeep. It's dirty. Looks like some off-camber stuff, a few rocks, nothing crazy, but depending on your line, some stuff. Looks like it could be a little wet if it rains, right? See a fence. I'm sure there's some cows lurking. You're not having fun till there's cows, right? So that trail looks interesting, right? So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to start thinking about, well, can I camp here? So, if you've ever dispersed camp, right, there's like three main land owning agencies in the United States, right? There's the Bureau of Land Management, which you can generally disperse camp on unless there's a sign or something that says you can't, right? There's the National Park Service, which generally you can camp at a campground, but You can't disperse camp unless it's like Death Valley or something like that. There are rare exceptions where there is some motorized dispersed camping. U.S. Forest Service is tough because there's regulations. There's all these maps about where you're allowed to be, where you're not allowed to be, how far you're going to be from the center line of the road. Well, something onX added this year, which is super awesome, is a dispersed camping layer. So if you come over here to layers, right? And you come over here past all these base maps we've been looking at, right? There is a dispersed camping layer, and I'm going to turn that on. And you see all these roads turn yellow. And the reason they turn yellow is because you're allowed to disperse camp there, right? So not only do they turn yellow, but we see the regulation allowed within 100 feet of the road. And so if you know anything about dispersed camping, right, you're looking for an established site, a site someone else has used in the past within that distance, so within 100 feet of the road. And so if we come in here on onX, right, we can see there's a trail we're allowed to be on it. It's green. We looked at the photos and the difficulty. We think we want to be on it, right? And then now we know we're allowed to camp on it. And so if you come in here and start to look around, you're looking for stuff that's within 100 feet of the road. Well, look, there's a site right here, right? And so I also start to mark these. Now, I don't try and mark every dispersed campsite in the world, right? But I do like to mark a few options so I know, hey, there's some sites over in that area I can explore. So I often use this dispersed camp icon. Yellow, like I said, I use yellow for all camping. I put it in my folder. I save it, right? And I sort of continue this, right? I sort of continue going down this road, right? There's a spur here, right? And often what I'll do is I'll do that same thing where I switch to 3D and then I just drive the road, right? And you see right here, right? There's someone camped, right? There's a trailer. Very good indication that there is a dispersed campsite. So same thing, I'm going to disperse camp, color, icon, folder, right? And I just go ahead and drive this road, right? Now I'm going to switch here to my phone because I sort of want to show you how you can do the same kind of things with waypoints on your mobile device. All right. So you can see here's the waypoints I've already added. Let me make my screen a little dimmer there. There's the trails I've already added. Right here's the dispersed campsites I've already added. I'm going to switch back to 3D. I'm going to start driving down the road. And you might think this is crazy. You might think like, well, I'll just get out there, right? And I'll just find the campsites when I'm there. I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but sometimes I'm like staring at something on the right and I drive past a great site on the left. Sometimes there's a great site just tucked around the corner beyond some trees. I'm lazy. I don't go down there. And so I like to mark sites, especially sites that I think are going to be awesome, just so I don't miss them when I'm out there and I have some options. So I'm going to drive down this road. I'm going to keep looking for sites. Let's see. All right. Here's a good example of a hidden site. You can see some rocks right here. I probably couldn't see this site right here. So I'm just going to long press my finger. I'll show you that again. Whoop. I'm just going to drop my finger lazily on the screen right here where I want the pin. And I can either add a waypoint or build a route. I'm going to add a waypoint. Do disperse camp again. Pick yellow. Whoop, not the photo. Add it to the folder. Right. And I'm just sort of continuing this workflow. Right. And I generally will do this till I feel like I find the awesomest campsite in the world, right? Like that. Doesn't that look cool? Right? So there's this huge rock. There's a single site down here. Looks like Mount Doom, right? It just looks like a really cool site. So I'm going to go ahead and mark this. I'm going to drop my finger at a waypoint. Now I have this really weird thing I do where I use a sheriff badge if it's a really cool site. And I don't know why. I just like to have something to denote it, and I've never found anything better to do with a sheriff badge. But sheriff sites are like the sites I think are going to be the best. So generally, I mark 3 or 4 sites in an area till I find a site that I think is like the site, and then I might mark a few sites somewhere else if I think we're doing like a multi-night thing. But that's generally how I approach dispersed camping, right? Let me turn on that dispersed camping layer so it looks the same as my laptop. So you can see the road, we're allowed to be on it. It's green, so it's easier. It has the yellow highlights, so we're allowed to disperse camp within 100 feet of the road. And those sites look to be within about 100 feet of the road. And more importantly, they're established, right? People have been there and hung out at them before. So a little bit about how to look for dispersed campsites, both in your web browser or on your mobile device. A couple other things I want to show you in the vein of making a plan. So there's some other layers that might be useful to you. Ones that I use all the time, private land. And actually, let me turn Topo back on so you see it. Watch the left side here on the border of the national forest. So you see these red boxes come in, right? So you can see private land, you can see the plots, you can see who owns them. If you click on them, you can actually see the address and the owners and all that kind of stuff. This is really useful in places where there's inholding. So this particular forest track is fairly contiguous, but there's lots of forests where there's all these little private land inholdings within the forest. And so this is an awesome, awesome thing to have. This is one of the things that is an onX Elite. So if you're ever trying to figure out, do I need Elite? Do I need that tier? Having that private land information is one of the things. Also, that recent imagery that lets you see the snow or the foliage color or things like that. Recent imagery is also an elite. So if you're trying to decide which one's for you, those are two features that are in there. Some other things folks really like, the cell coverage layer. So let's say you have T-Mobile and you're coming up here and you're like, hey, maybe I'll go for a long weekend. Maybe I'll work on Friday and not tell anybody. If you turn on that cell phone layer, you can come in here, you'll see this pink overlay. And as you zoom in, you'll actually see what this means. So this color is 5G, voice only 4G. And, results are going to vary. But if I came up here, I might say, well, this central area where we've been planning, the T-Mobile coverage is, I'm not sure, right? But up north, it looks a little bit better, right? So you could actually plan, hey, we're going to start our trip up north, right? And then we'll come down. So that's another useful layer. We have another masterclass recording on YouTube too. If you ever want to go through the layers, it's like a deep dive in every single layer. We just don't have time to go through every one of them tonight. But I want to show you one more. I wish I didn't have to show you this one, right? But active wildfire, wildfire smoke, and historical wildfire. I'm so happy when I turn these on that nothing happened in this area. It's getting to be that time of the year where sometimes, if we're lucky, fire activity calms down a little bit. But so if we zoom out here, we start to see this, right? So these are historical fires. So sometimes you just don't want to be in an area that's been burned recently, right? Some forest fires are really strong and ravage an area, some not so much. But it's good to know where there's been a fire and then use things like satellite imagery to come in and see that in a little bit more detail to see what actually happened. And as you zoom in, these overlays will actually disappear. So you can see as we come in here, actually see a large stand of dead trees. So it looks like this fire actually got that area. And some of the darker green areas, you can see the trees are still there. So just good information. At least bring a chainsaw if you're going into a burn area, right? The other thing it'll show us is active wildfires. So as I zoom out here, let's see if there's any active wildfires. So you can see there's a lot up here in the Pacific Northwest right now. Let me zoom into this one. So it looks like lower Sugarloaf fire here. I can click on it, get information about it, acreage, percent contained, more information if I want to really dig into it, right? But a couple things that we see that's really helpful. One is the smoke. So this yellow and this orange and this red, this is the smoke, right? So you can sort of see where the smoke is hanging out, the direction it's going. And let me come in here and turn this off for a second so we can just see the fire. So now when I just have the active wildfire layer on, let me turn off historical too. So this red is the fire perimeter. So this is the official perimeter for the fire. So if you're curious where the fire is or has been, that'll tell you that. And then the really helpful thing too are these little things that look like fuzzy little candle flames. So these are satellite detected hotspots. So these are actually showing you where it's hot, right? And so looks like this fire is got lots of activity down here in the southeast. It has some up here in the north too. And so, if you're trying to stay clear of this area because folks are evacuating, they're fighting a fire, and you don't want to get stuck in a fire, this can be really a really useful layer. I often use this when I'm planning a trip, but also check just a couple days before, I'm going to, or even when I'm out there. All right, so lots of layers. We can't go through them all tonight, but like I said, check out that recording if you really want to go into the deep dive. All right, so probably the last but most important thing after we've found and we've made our plan, right, is we got to download our offline maps, right? And so I want to show you how you can do offline maps so that you have all this good information to take with you. So if you're out there without a cell connection, without a Starlink, you still have everything you see here on your mobile device. So over here on the left, I'm going to click offline maps. right? And I have this old one. I'm going to delete this is to not confuse us. All right. And I am going to select new offline map down here, this big orange button. And when I select that, I'm going to get this box and I'm basically going to zoom my map in. So it's around the area I need. I guess that's pretty good, right? I'm going to select the satellite imagery detail. Okay, so this is a little confusing, so I want to go through it. So actually, let me go out of here and show you all the good stuff you're going to get. So no matter what you choose, low, medium, high there for satellite imagery, you're going to get this. You're going to get a topo map. You're going to get all these roads. You're going to get the county road. You're going to get the guided trails. You're going to get the unknown trails, right? You're going to get your waypoints, right? You're going to get routes. You're going to get everything. The only thing you're picking when you come in here and you make this offline map, right? You're just picking the satellite imagery. So if you want it really crispy and you want to be able to zoom in all the way offline, pick high. I normally pick medium. I find it's good enough if like I have two dispersed campsites I'm going to go check out. One has cows in a mud puddle. The other one has a camper in it already, right? And I need to find a third site. Medium's normally good enough for me to find stuff like that. If you have a use case where you need high, choose that. If you just need really general information, you can choose low. So again, I normally name it the place I'm going, Pole Mountain, and I hit save. Now at this point, you do not have your offline map. You got to go download it on your mobile device, but you've created it. So it'll make it really easy when you grab your phone, right? And that's what this is saying. It's just saying this was created, but you really got to go to your device and download it. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Let me grab my phone here. All right. So I got my phone again. I come in here and down here on the bottom, I'm just going to go to offline maps like that. I come up here, you can see Pole Mountain. There's a little down arrow. I'm going to tap that and it's going to download real fast because I'm on my home internet. So I do this when you're at home, when you're on Wi-Fi, if you're traveling, when you're on your Starlink or a really good cell connection. And once you have that, you'll be good to go. So this is going to take a second to download. Yep. And then I'm going to show you what you're looking for just to, if you're like, ooh, did it download? Right? You see this green box? Green means good, right? So if you see green, that's an offline map and it's downloaded. Now, if I were to remove this download for some reason, just to show you, right, you can see red, right? Red's not good, right? So if you're ever not sure, just look for that box, make sure that box is green, you're good to go. And now if you were offline, or even if you came here and intentionally told the app to go offline, like if you were in edge of service, you can hit offline and it'll kick your device offline, at least for the onX app, and it'll make sure it'll force it to use that offline data. So that's a cool little trick you can use as well. Okay. So those are the things that I do when I'm, preparing and getting ready to go. One last thing I want to show you in case you happen to be going with friends. So I told you earlier, I used a folder for a reason. So if you come in here to my content, you'll be able to find everything. You'll be able to find all the waypoints you've made, um, routes you've created, all the folders you've created. And so in here, we can come in here and see Pole Mountain. One cool thing we can do is we can actually hide everything in onX and we can just show Pole Mountain. So if we just want to focus on that trip. We can also share this folder. So I'm going to hit share here and you can choose. Do you want to share this so folks can just see it? Or do you want to share it so folks can also contribute? So if you're going with friends and you want them to be able to add waypoints and routes and things like that, you can select contribute and hit share and you'll get a link. And so you can just copy that link and you can share it on Facebook or WhatsApp or text chain or however you talk to your friends. And once they join, you'll be able to see what they see as well. And to show you a really cool example, there's this folder that someone from onX sent me a little while ago for National Public Lands Day, which is not this Saturday, but the following Saturday, September 27th, right? And I'm going to turn that on and zoom out here. And so all of these red pins are places around the country where there will be an onX trail guide who will be hosting a meetup. So you can go say hi, get some swag, run some trails. And so, I would encourage you, find one near you. It looks like for me, there's one Eagle Valley Trail. Eric is hosting it from 8 to 11. And so this is super cool. We're going to put a link. And if you open that up in onX, it'll ask you if you want to join the share folder. And then you can see that on your map, right? You can come in here to my content. and you can come into this National Public Lands Day folder. And if there's a meetup near you, you can go hang out, say hi, meet up with some other onXers and a trail guide, and maybe have some fun out there. So check that out. It's a really cool event. All right. So at this point, we're ready to go. We've gotten our offline map, right? We've made a plan. We know what we want to go check out. Now, how do we actually get out there, right? And like navigate to the place we want to go and record our track and things like that. So let me show you sort of the last bit I do before I go. So sometimes before a trip, I'll make a route. So it's another kind of thing you can draw on the map. So I'm going to come here to build route. And I'm going to click here on I-80 because I know how to get to this point, right? But once you start drawing a route, right, you can just sort of move your cursor around and it'll try and snap to different trails. So like if I was really here, I might say, well, actually, this is cool. Let me come up here through this state park, right? And I'll come up here to some of these trails I wanted to check out. And I'll come up to my dispersed campsites, and then I'll do this loop. And you can see I'm just sort of clicking here to add these little circles. It's just sort of telling it, hey, I want to go to there, right? And then it'll connect the dots between the trails. I could come down here. I could come down to this Twin Mountain Road. And it's super cool, right? Because you can just sort of find like, do I want to take like the easy one or the easy high clearance or I'm going to take the unknown one. That sounds fun. Right? And you can make a route. So I might call this like weekend route, right? Same thing, color, folder, all the kind of stuff I do, right? But I still got to get there, right? So I'm all the way down here in Denver. And so in the past, right, I would have to use one navigation app to like get to the trailhead and use another one once I was on the trail. onX this year announced on and off pavement navigation, and it's super cool. So again, I can't really show you because it's not my vehicle, but I made a little video and I want to show you how it works. So one of the cool things you can do in the app is if you know where you want to start your trip, you can pull up that waypoint or route and you can hit navigate. And in the past, you've been able to navigate using Apple Maps or Google Maps, but there's a new option for onX navigation. And if you select that, it'll give you turn-by-turn directions, on-road and off-road, which is really cool because a lot of mapping services do not work very well when you get off-road as well. And so if I wanted to go ahead and follow this route, I'd hit go.
Head north on Harlan Way, then turn right onto West 76th Avenue.
And so you can hear the prompts. And so you can zoom in, you can zoom out. If you pop this up, you can look at the detailed directions if you need to see that. And then you can also preview the route. And then you can always also sort of switch between your heads up, zoomed in view and the total route view like this. And then you can also switch your orientation. So if you want your direction facing north versus north facing north, you can do that. You can toggle the sound on and off. And so you get your written instruction and you get your audio instruction. And so if you just have a phone, you can go ahead and use your phone. It also works in landscape, which is nice. I happen to have CarPlay. And so I'm going to go ahead and show you what that looks like here on CarPlay. And I'll drive around a little bit so we can see this in action.
In less than half a mile, turn right onto Sheridan Boulevard.
And one thing I like to do sometimes too, like if I'm passing a trailhead or a campsite I might want to check out later, I'll use this mark button, and you can use it to either start recording a track or mark my location. So I'm going to mark my location, and you'll see it drops a waypoint right there, and it just makes it really easy for me to go back later in the app, and I can update it and say it was a campsite or whatever. But a lot of times that's how I mark my campsites, because I just find cool campsites as I drive by it, or maybe a trailhead I want to visit the next day.
Onto West 74th Place, then turn left onto Kendall Street. Turn left onto Kendall Street.
And navigation can be really helpful also when it's unplanned. So I've been in places where, I was 60 miles into my planned route and there was just deep mud and I couldn't get around it. It was on an embankment, right? And I had to find a way to get out, and I hadn't planned an alternate route. I should have. So good tip, plan an alternate route. But I basically use navigation to find the nearest pavement on the map. I have my offline map. I dropped a pin. I hit navigate. there were just like hundreds of roads. I didn't know which one to choose, right? And onX chose the one that was easiest for me to get to that place that I wanted to get to, and it saved my butt. So, I was really helpful. That was really helpful to have. So also good for emergency situations. Another good reason to download your offline maps. The last thing I want to show you tonight is Go and Track. A lot of folks want to record their track so you can share it with somebody else or, know how the heck you got there. Again, if the road network's a little confusing. So I want to show you how that works as well, because it's going to be something you're going to do in your vehicle. When you're out there in the trail, I highly suggest recording where you've been. It can be super helpful if you want to revisit a place, share it with a friend who's looking for a recommendation, or just figure out where the heck you came from in case you need to backtrack. It can be especially helpful in situations where there's a lot of trails and you can get lost. So you can see here on my phone, I can hit Go and Track, and I can hit Record Track. Now I'm actually going to show you how I can do this here on my CarPlay head unit, but let me show you how this works first here. So we hit Record and Track, and then we start driving. And you'll see as I drive, it'll start recording where I'm going with these little red dots here. It'll show me the time, the duration, the distance, the elevation as it changes. And I can always pause this or stop this if I need to. So I'm gonna stop here, and I'm gonna go ahead and pause this, and I just hit End. And so when you do that, you can give it a name, and then you can resume it if it was a mistake, look at your stats, or save it. If you want to do the same thing here on CarPlay, you can hit this icon in the lower right, and this is where you can drop a pin, like a cool campsite or a place you want to go visit later, or you can hit Start Tracking. And if you hit Start Tracking, the same thing will happen. It'll start tracking here, it'll start tracking here, and as we drive, you'll start to see those red dots again. So, super handy for a variety of reasons, and I highly suggest you go and track when you're out there on the trail. All right, so that's how you can record your track, and I find it super helpful because, again, I always think, oh, I'd know how to get out of here if I needed to, but sometimes it's pretty busy. I also use it all the time when I'm sharing a trail idea with someone I meet at an event or with a friend. I'll just go ahead and share my track or my folder with that person so they can go check out that adventure too. All right, I know we're getting to the end. I'm going to check in with Melissa real quick to see if there's anything I missed or anything I should cover before we wrap it up.
Hey Adam, we've got about 4 minutes left, and earlier tonight there was a good question about weather in the app. And so I know that's something we would usually showcase in our advanced masterclass, but since the question popped up, I thought it'd be good to show it.
Sure. Yeah. So there's a couple weather layers. So if we come back down here to our layer selector, we can turn precipitation on or off. So it looks like little scattered precipitation near Cheyenne right now. Looks like, oh my goodness. Look at that. Hot, dry Arizona is sort of wet and thunderstormy right now. So you can turn on precipitation. You can also turn on temperature, and you can always come in here to see the temperature scale. So again, if you're curious, like, some travelers are always trying to stay around 70 degrees. Some people are looking for snow wheeling. Some people love 100 degrees, right? So you can use this to try and figure out the temperatures in an area. And then there's also an air quality index if you're worried about that. So a couple sort of weather related layers. Now, some of these layers obviously do require data to stay up to date. Like you can obviously load your precipitation, but if you don't have a connection, it's not going to update. And so that's where combining it with something like the cell phone layer can be helpful. Like if you're in a really sticky situation and you really need to find some connectivity, you can always turn on your cell phone layer and say, here, let me just zoom in back to Pole Mountain. Like maybe you're down here, right? And you don't have connection, right? But you have the cell phone layer and you're like, hey, I need to get south or west or north, and I'll probably get a better signal. And so it can be helpful in emergencies too, to use that cell phone layer to figure out where you're more likely to get a cell phone signal. All right, that was a good question. All right, so that does it for tonight. Thank you for staying to the end. I do want to let you know we have a monthly advanced masterclass almost every month. We have one coming up on October 2nd. So if you want to go even deeper and really focus on a particular feature of onX Offroad, next month we're going to be getting into every single little detail of how to find the perfect trail for you, whether that's easy, medium, hard, whether you want water, whether you want rocks, whether you want trees, whether you want desert. We're really going to dig into how to find all that, use all the information in onX to find that perfect trail. We also have lots of great recordings on YouTube from those past advanced master classes on everything from dispersed camping to the layer deep dive. So go check those out. I really appreciate you hanging out with me tonight. I hope this helps you to get out there on an adventure, and I hope you're going out there soon. And hopefully I'll see you out there along the trail. Until next time, I'm Adam. See ya.